Guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different because I wanted to talk about something other than beauty, because I don't just love all things beauty. I have a couple other hobbies that I wanted to share with you. So this video is actually going to be the books that I have read under quarantine and a couple books that I am still reading. Reading is one of my favorite hobbies and it just kind of keeps me grounded, and it's a good way to kind of take your mind off everything because you kind of put yourself into that book. If you are new here, my name's Corinne. I would love it if you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my videos. And let's talk about this first book. So actually the first couple books I do not have with me because I gave them to a friend, but I will put up pictures of the covers for all the books just so you can see them. It's just easier for you to see the picture rather than me holding up the book. So the first book is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and this is part of Reese Witherspoon's book club where she picks one book a month that has a female main character. So this book takes place in the marshes of North Carolina, and it follows a girl named Kaya, and her nickname is Marsh Girl. And she starts off very, very young, so kind of takes you through her life. But Delia Owens weaves through another story where it goes through a murder investigation throughout the book. So it kind of bounces back and forth between Kaya's life and the murder investigation. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty slow at first, actually, so it did take me a little bit longer to get into it. After I got into it, I thought it was really good. I could not put it down. I mean, I love murder mysteries in general, so I really liked that that was part of it, but it was also a whole different story that was going on throughout the book. She does live a lonely life, so it's interesting to see how her character develops throughout the book. I definitely recommend this book to any readers out there. I did lend this to a friend, so I'm interested to see how she likes it. This one was definitely a good one in my book, haha. And the second one is When Life Gives You Lululemons, and this is by Lauren Weisberger, and she is actually the author of The Devil Wears Prada, which was made into a major motion picture, which most of you have probably seen already. I mean, it's quite a few years old. I mean, actually, it's pretty old. I want to look it up to see how old it actually is. I love that movie. I mean, I love Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci. I love all four of them, so all of them in one movie. I mean, it was just a recipe for an amazing movie. I didn't really know it was a book when it first came out, because I mean, the book is even older than the movie, and I have heard that they do differ a little bit. Of course, I mean, every book that was made into a movie, it tends to be different in the movies. It's just, it is what it is. That's what happens when it's made into a movie. But I liked the movie, so I'd actually be interested to see what is different in the book. But anyway, this book is actually the third book in the series. The second one is called Revenge Wears Prada, I'm pretty sure, and it's Return of the Devil. I think that's what it's called. That one focuses on Andy Sachs, who is Anne Hathaway's character. I have not read that one, but this one focuses on Emily Charlton, and that is Emily Blunt's character, the assistant to Miranda Priestley, or Meryl Streep's character. And I found this really interesting because it takes place in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I'm from Connecticut. That's where I lived before I moved to Florida. So it was really interesting to see what the author put in there that I would kind of know just based on living there. And it takes place in Greenwich, which is one of the towns where Connecticut really gets its reputation from. So I chuckled through a lot of that, but actually the author lives in Connecticut or lived in Connecticut for a few years. She moved from Manhattan to Connecticut. That's kind of what this story is about. Like, Emily Charlton ends up going to Greenwich, and her life and a couple other female characters' lives kind of intertwine, and they're very different women. I mean, it's three women now living in Greenwich, but they all come from different backgrounds and different experiences. So it's interesting to see how their characters grow throughout it. There's drama in it, so it's kind of pulls you in, and I of course like that. I mean, I like murder mysteries, so of course I'm gonna like the drama. This is definitely a beach read. It's a very easy read, which I really like. I tend to read when I don't really want to think about anything else. So I think a beach read is the perfect book for that, and that's definitely what this is. So the next few books I'm going to talk about, I don't really need to talk about at all, and you'll see why. These are 3 of the Harry Potter books. So that is another, not obsession, slight obsession of mine. I love Harry Potter. This is the 4th time reading the series, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, I've been to Harry Potter World multiple times. I went to London, I did a Harry Potter tour. We of course took pictures at the platform 9 3/4 because I'm a giant Harry Potter nerd. So that's why these are in here. These are a very quick read for me, and that's why I picked these up. Especially during quarantine because I didn't really have anything else to do. And I got through the first 3 very quickly. I mean, the first one is pretty tiny. I mean, it's not tiny. It's 200, almost 300 pages. But, I mean, they're written for kids, so they are pretty wide pages. It's bigger text, so it's just a lot quicker to read. And I mean, it's Harry Potter. But so these are the first 3, the Sorcerer's Stone, the Chamber of Secrets, and then the Prisoner of Azkaban. I love these. I will always continue reading these. And I read them multiple times because I find something new every time I read them. Well, not necessarily new. I kind of remember things every time I read them. Like, J.K. Rowling puts so many details into these books, and it's amazing. And you can read these 8 times, and there's still something that you forget when you go back and read it for the 9th time. And this is a great example of how the movies vary drastically from the books. The first few are a little bit closer just because the books are smaller, so it's easier to put all of the details in the movies, but there's still details that are completely wrong in the movies. I've watched the movies a bajillion times, so even going back to the books, I'm like, oh, I've seen the movie too many times to actually remember what is the real part that's supposed to happen. So that's why I continue reading them. I love them, and it's always like a new book every time I read them. So actually, I'm currently reading the 4th one right now, and that's the Goblet of Fire. This is the first long one. This is almost 700 pages. The 5th, 6th, and 7th books are all this size or even bigger. I'm not yet halfway. You can see my bookmark right there. But again, these are just quick reads. It's just when I don't really want to think about doing anything else, or I don't want to really pay attention to a book. I mean, I know the stories in here. It's just rereading it just for fun. The next book I finished was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I don't know how to say his name. This book is so good. It was, again, pretty slow. I think I might have started this at the same time as Where the Crawdads Sing, so it was kind of like a competition between the two because they were both pretty slow at the beginning. And then I finally got into Crawdads, so then I finished that one. But this one is definitely quicker than that one. Just at the beginning, it's not so much. So this one takes place in Paris in the 1940s during World War II. So it goes through this girl. Her name is Marie Laure. It's French. I don't know how to say that. I'm not French. My name is French, but I'm not French. It goes through her life with her father during the war and where they're traveling and kind of what happens to them. But another story is also intertwining through this one, just like in Where the Crawdads Sing. It's about a boy who's an orphan with his younger sister, and it goes through his life in Germany before and after he is enlisted. So it just takes you through both of their stories and how they are very, very different throughout the war. I mean, he's a German soldier, so you kind of see that side of it, and then it goes through the family from Paris that has to flee France to get away from the Germans. So I love these books. I mean, I actually love books that take place during that time period. I've actually read a few books fairly recently that took place during this same time period. I read The Tattooist of Auschwitz and then The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I don't remember who The Tattooist of Auschwitz is by, who that author is, but they both take place at the same exact time during World War II and the Holocaust, and I love books about that. The Nightingale actually is almost the exact same time as this, and The Nightingale also takes place in Paris, so it's interesting to read two different books around the same exact time, pretty much talking about the same exact thing, and how they differ and what type of stories that those authors wanted to talk about throughout the book. And then Tattooist of Auschwitz, that's a little bit different because it takes place in one of the concentration camps, at least for most of the book. One of the prisoners is the main character, so it goes through his life in the concentration camps. So anyway, this is just the third book that I have read recently that's during that time period because I just love it so much. So this was definitely very riveting. I really enjoyed it. It's very detailed, and he does a great job of kind of pulling you into that era and location at that time period. He describes everything very eloquently, so I recommend this one. And then the last book that I have read is The Husband's Secret, and this is by Liane Moriarty, and she is the author of Big Little Lies, and I definitely enjoyed this one too. This is another beach read, so this one is really, really quick. I read this in like 2 days because a lot happens, which I of course enjoy, but a lot of times it happens with beach reads. You don't think it's gonna be too serious because it's a beach read, but this one does. There's a lot of drama in this, and there is a secret. I mean, the husband's secret, so there is a secret that is to be told in the book. So I definitely enjoyed it because, again, it's like a mystery. You want to know what the secret is, and you want to know how these characters grow. It goes through a lot of different women that you get to kind of witness their lives through a short period of time. All the characters are kind of connected in some way, or how one particular event or instance connects all of them and they don't even know it. And you kind of go through how these women figure out the connections. A lot of it you kind of guess what's going to happen, and that happens with murder mysteries too. You kind of try and figure out who the murderer was. In this case, you want to figure out what the secret is and then how that secret affects everything else. I found it really interesting, but this one I too definitely recommend as a really good beach read. So then the last book I want to talk about is one that I am about to start, and that is Dear Evan Hansen, the novel. And this is written by the creators of the musical, and if you did not know, Dear Evan Hansen is a Tony Award winning musical. I'm going to butcher these names, but I'm going to say them anyway. Val Emmich, Stephen Levinson, Benj Pasek, and Justin Paul. So actually, Val Emmich is the writer, and he wrote the book along with the creators of the musical. Stephen Levinson, he is the playwright for the musical, and then Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, they're the songwriting team for the musical. Going through the bio of the authors in here, Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, they are also the ones that wrote A Christmas Story, or at least they're the songwriting team for The Christmas Story. They were part of The Greatest Showman, La La Land, and Trolls, and Snow White and Aladdin, so the live action movie musicals, Snow White and Aladdin. Snow White has not come out yet. I actually did not know that they were going to make a live action for that, which is weird because I'm also a Disney nerd, so it's another nerd fact about me. Actually, this team has done a lot, and it does not surprise me because the music in Dear Evan Hansen is so good. I want to see that so badly. It's coming to Florida in 2021, I think, or end of 2020. So hopefully I'm able to see that when it comes here. But I really wanted to read the book, and I of course know kind of the premise of what the story is just by listening to the soundtrack. But there's of course a lot of details that you would not know if you have not seen the musical. There are not a lot of songs, it's not a huge soundtrack, so you know just from that a lot of the scenes are spoken and not sung. You do miss a lot by just listening to the soundtrack. So I really wanted to read this just to know more of the details, and I've heard the musical is amazing. So this is definitely an exciting one for me. So those are all the books that I have read during these past few months in quarantine, and the one that I am about to start. I ended up reading 7 books throughout these couple months. I mean, the first few I read pretty quickly in the first month or so. So I do want to get back into reading just as much. I have a lot of books on my bookshelf that are on my list to read. After a couple months of more reading, I'll let you guys know what else I read. So this is just another hobby I wanted to share with you guys, just so you can know a little bit more about me. I'm not just all things beauty, I am a book nerd, so there you go. So that completes this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!